Let me ask you something. Have you ever wanted something so badly, so desperately, that you forgot what it even felt like to just be yourself? Have you ever watched somebody else get praised for something you worked just as hard for, or harder, and felt that quiet burning thing rise up in your chest? In a village not far from here, beauty had a ruler. That ruler had a number. Every woman, every girl, every mother and daughter, they all measured their worth in inches of hair. Because the woman with the longest hair would become the prince's wife, future queen. And in that race, one woman cheated. One woman schemed. A woman who never even competed. Stay with me, because what happened in this village will make you think twice about the things you're chasing right now. What is already standing right in front of you. If this already has you feeling something, hit subscribe. More tales are coming, and you don't want to miss them. A village where everybody knows everybody, where the smell of morning soup carries 3 streets over, where the sound of children means everything is still okay. A good village, a beautiful village, but a village that had made one very strange agreement with itself. Beauty here was not measured by kindness. Not by grace, not by wisdom, not by the strength of your hands or the warmth of your heart. Beauty here was measured by the length of your hair. When the time came for the prince to choose a wife, all the women of the village would stand before the royal family. And the woman with the longest hair, that woman would become the future queen. So every morning, before the sun had even decided what kind of day it was going to be, the women of this village were already awake. Rice water soaking in clay bowls, aloe vera scraped fresh from the leaf, chants whispered over scalps, oils rubbed in with fingers that prayed with every stroke. The market had become a hair market. Every other stall, herbs, roots, seeds, dark little bottles that promised miracles. Women compared lengths the way traders compared prices. Arguments broke out over half an inch. Friendships cracked over centimeters. And standing above them all, above all that measuring and comparing and desperate hoping, was Chiamaka. But every queen has a rival, and Chiamaka's rival was Chinaza. Chinaza had the second longest hair in the village, 2 inches shorter, 2 inches between her and everything she had ever dreamed of, 2 inches that felt like 2 miles. The day they held a public hair measuring contest in the village square. And yes, they did. Chinaza stood there while the village elder pressed that measuring cloth from crown to tip. And when the number was announced, the same 2 inches, still there, still mocking her. She did not cry in public. She smiled the way a person smiles when something inside them has already decided to do something dangerous. That night, alone in her hut, Chinaza made a decision. She was going to win, no matter what it cost, no matter who it cost. But I need to tell you about another woman. A woman who had heard about this tradition and made a different kind of decision. Not the decision to compete, the decision not to. Her name was Ebili Chuku, and Ebili Chuku kept her hair short, not because she couldn't grow it, not because she had given up, but because she had looked at all those women spending their days soaking and measuring and comparing and praying over their hair, and she had decided that her time was worth more than that. While the other women were in their doorways oiling their scalps, Ebili was in her farm. While they were whisper arguing about who had grown a centimeter overnight, Ebili was selling her harvest at a price she had negotiated herself. While they were watching each other, Ebili was building something. And by the time the ceremony was approaching, Ebili Chuku was the richest woman in the village. She owned land. She had savings. She had peace. She had everything except their approval. She looks like a man, they said. What prince would look twice at her? They laughed. They pointed. They used her name the way people use a cautionary tale, something to measure themselves against so they can feel further ahead. Ebili heard every word, and she kept farming. But desperation has very short memory, and with the ceremony getting closer, that skepticism lasted about 3 days before the queue outside Inina's salon stretched to the end of the street. Even Chiamaka went. Yes, the woman with the longest hair who had nothing to prove and everything to protect, sat in Inina's chair. Because when you are ahead in a race and someone tells you they can make you run faster, the fear of falling behind is louder than common sense. And Chinaza was first in line. The morning after Chinaza visited Inina's salon, she woke up and reached for her hair the way she always did. Fingers searching for that familiar weight, that thick rope of it that had always been there, and felt nothing. She sat up. She ran both hands over her head. Completely bald. Not thinning. Not shedding. Completely, utterly, mercilessly. She ran to Inina's shop before the market had even opened. "What did you do to me? What did you put in that cream?" And Inina, calm as still water, looked at her with those steady eyes and said, "This is the protective stage. The roots are clearing. By tomorrow, your hair will come back triple the length." Chinaza stared at her. She wanted to scream. She wanted to tear that salon apart with her bare hands. But she thought about that triple length, and she believed her, one by one. Every woman who had visited Inina's salon woke up bald the next morning. One by one, they rushed to her in a panic. One by one, she told them the same thing, the protective stage. Triple length tomorrow. And one by one, they went home, wrapped their heads in scarves, and waited for a miracle that was never coming. Drop a comment below. Whose side are you on? I read every single one. The day of the bride-picking ceremony arrived the way important days always do. Too fast for the unprepared and right on time for everyone else. The palace grounds were decorated. The royal family sat on a raised platform. The king, a man of tradition, a man who had watched this ceremony his whole life, sat in the center with the quiet gravity of someone who believed completely in the rules of his world. The women lined up, every woman from the village, heads wrapped, faces composed, eyes forward. Chiamaka was there. Chinaza was there. Every woman who had sat in Inina's chair was there, whispering for the miracle. The king rose. He spoke. "By the tradition of our forebears, the woman who carries the longest hair shall be chosen. Let all women present uncover their heads." Nobody moved. "Uncover your heads." The first scarf came off. Bald. The second, bald. The third, bald. One after another. Every single woman from that village, standing before the king, the prince, the court, the crowd, completely bald. The king looked out at this row of bare heads and said nothing for a very long time. The prince looked at his father. The advisors looked at each other. Somebody coughed. And then the king said, "Find me the woman with hair. Find me any woman in this village with a single strand still standing on her head." They found Inina near the edge of the village, moving fast. Her painted cart loaded, her pockets heavy with the coins of every woman who had trusted her. She had not planned to be there when the scarves came off. They brought her before the king in chains, and the king looked at her, really looked at her, and said, "Who are you, and what have you done?" And Inina, with nowhere left to run and nothing left to hide, told the truth. She had been born in this very village, born with a condition that would not let her hair grow, not a single strand. And as a child, a small girl who had done nothing wrong, who had only wanted to belong, she had been mocked for it, laughed at, excluded from the rituals that said, without saying it, "You are not one of us." Eventually, the village had banished her, sent her into the forest alone. A child, alone. She had survived. She had been found, or found her way, to a woman in the forest, a witch. And the witch had raised her, taught her, given her power she had never asked for, but had used with both hands. The cream she had sold them, it did not destroy hair, it harvested it. Every strand taken from those women's heads had been collected, packaged, sold to buyers in the underworld. Buyers who paid more for a village's worth of authentic, untreated, ceremony-grown African hair than most people here would see in a lifetime. She had made herself rich,
by giving back to this village exactly what this village had once given her. Silence. The deepest silence the palace grounds had ever held. And then Inina was gone, not dragged away.
Not taken. Gone. Vanished into nothing before the guards could take a single step. The king stood before a village of bald women and a tradition that had just collapsed under its own weight. His advisors leaned in, murmuring. His son, the prince, sat very still. The tradition states, said the oldest advisor, that the woman with the longest hair shall be chosen. If there is still a woman in this village who has hair, he looked around the palace grounds, then the tradition stands. There was only one woman on those grounds who had never been to Inina's salon. One woman who had been too busy working her farm, building her life, counting her harvest, to chase a cream that promised what only time could give. She was standing near the back. She had come to the ceremony because she was part of this village, not because she thought she had any chance. She was wearing simple clothes.
She had a short, neat, perfectly maintained crop of hair that she had simply kept clean and cared for, the way you care for something you respect. When they called her name, she looked up with the kind of confusion that only truly innocent people have.
Me?
You, said the king. You are the only one with hair on her head in this entire village. The tradition is clear. Ebili Chuku walked to the front of that palace ground. The woman they had mocked, the woman they had laughed at, the woman they had said looked like a man. And she stood before the prince with her short hair and her calloused hands and her quiet, steady eyes. The prince looked at her, and for the first time that day, for the first time in a long time, he smiled.
There is something this village learned that day. Something that no amount of rice water or aloe vera had ever taught them. The woman who wins is not always the one who wants it the most. Sometimes the woman who wins is the one who was too busy building a life to know she was in a race. Chiamaka had the most, and she lost it chasing more. Chinaza was second, and she destroyed herself trying to be first. Inina had nothing, and the wound she carried from a childhood she did not choose became a weapon she could not put down. And Ebili just kept farming. She kept building. She kept being herself, fully, quietly, without apology. And the world arranged itself around that. Diamonds don't announce themselves. Neither do the people whose time is quietly coming. So I want to ask you something before you go. What are you chasing right now? And is it worth what you're trading for it? Because Ebili Chuku's crown, the one she never competed for, one she never asked for, the one she never even imagined, was waiting for her all along. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. I'll see you in the next tale.